All right, thanks so much for joining us once again on the bright side. We've been talking about estrogen and ways that you can protect yourself from estrogen. I'm going to go over some of the top nutritional supplements that you can use if you want to protect yourself from the toxic effects associated with this stress hormone that we're all exposed to. We'll probably get to at least one or two of these supplements, the top nutritional supplements that you can use to protect yourself. I've come up with 15 or 16 different supplemental ways that you can protect yourself from estrogen, and we'll be going over those for the next couple of days. Estrogen is a stress hormone. You've probably heard it's a female hormone. It's more like a stress hormone. But unlike the other major stress hormones in the body, cortisol and adrenaline, even prolactin, which is associated with helping women produce milk when they had a baby. Prolactin is kind of a stress hormone. Unlike the other stress hormones, stress management hormones in the body, estrogen is one that most of us cannot avoid exposure to. So estrogen, as we've been saying for the past few days, estrogen is more like a stress hormone that helps women handle stress, some of which are associated with being a woman, specifically the stresses that involve the female reproductive system, most especially pregnancy. But it's not a hormone of pregnancy necessarily. It's not a hormone of menstruation or reproduction necessarily. It's a hormone that helps the female body handle these kinds of stresses. The important thing to note here is all the bodily responses to stress hormones, the vasodilation, the blood vessels opening up in the skin causing rosacea, the vasodilation, the blood vessels opening up in the head causing migraine headaches, the vasoconstriction, the blood vessels closing in the interior of the body that cause high blood pressure, the hyperactivation of the immune system and the inflammatory system that lead to health issues like blood clotting and fibromyalgia and autoimmune diseases, even cancer itself. All of these diseases are associated with excess secretion of estrogen. Estrogen is an important emergency hormone, stress hormone, in the short term, but long-term exposure to elevations of estrogen are just as dangerous as long-term exposure to cortisol or any other stress hormone in the body. Stress hormones are designed to keep the body running during a survival threat. In an emergency, they will result in a upregulation and an increase in the production of energy, an upregulation of all the energy-producing systems in the body, but in the long term, they will suppress growth, they will suppress repair, and they will suppress reproduction. That's why estrogen's a contraceptive. When the reproductive system is under the command of stress hormones, you're not going to be making any babies. Women, if you're dealing with infertility issues, if you're trying to make a baby but you can't, chances are you're dealing with an elevation in stress hormones, whether it's cortisol or whether it's estrogen. So estrogen's a stress hormone, but it differs from other stress hormones. It turns out that there's just one kind of cortisol, there's just one kind of adrenaline, but estrogen, as it turns out, is not just one single chemical. It's more like a family of chemicals, all of which have a certain shape. Chemicals and chemistry is really all about the shapes. In the same way a key has a certain shape, and those shapes make the key fit in a lock or open a door or open a lock or not open a lock. If you have the wrong shape in a key, you're not opening up that lock. In the same way that the shape of a key determines how effective it's going to be in opening a lock, chemicals are likewise dependent on shapes for how they work or don't work. And in nature, there's lots of chemical keys that have an estrogen-like shape that will open up the estrogen door, that will open up the estrogen lock. For example, some of you may have heard of a type of chemical found in nature called isoflavones. Isoflavones are estrogenic. Isoflavones have an estrogen-like shape. They have a chemical shape that can stimulate estrogen responses in the body. Isoflavones are found in beans, and isoflavones are found in peanuts, and isoflavones are found in all legumes. Isoflavones are found in many herbs. These isoflavones give these herbs, give these plants, give these beans and legumes and peanuts a chemical shape that can stimulate the estrogen response in the body. Eating peanuts can up your estrogen activity. Eating peanuts can up the activity of stress hormones in the body or stress responses in the body. The same is true about something called lignans that you may have heard of. Lignans are like isoflavones. They're found throughout the plant kingdom. Because estrogen exposure like all stress hormones, eventually is going to shut down the body's ability to grow and repair and reproduce. Many plants have found through billions of years of evolution that this powerful estrogen shape, this estrogen chemical shape, makes an ideal defensive chemical warfare material for protection from predators. Animals that eat a plant that contains isoflavones or lignans or any other estrogen-like shape won't grow, they won't reproduce, they won't have little baby predators for that plant to have to worry about. In other words, plants use phytoestrogens as chemical warfare. And so we find countless plant versions of estrogen-like chemicals, so-called phytoestrogens. Phyto just means plant. Phytoestrogens are plant estrogens like lignans and isoflavones. We find them throughout nature. Legumes and beans and peanuts and various seeds and blueberries and dates and green beans and collard greens and winter squash. All of these are contain relatively high amounts of these estrogen-like compounds. Now, fortunately, if you cook these foods, some of these estrogen-like compounds will be destroyed, but the fact remains that if you're dealing with an estrogen issue, you want to be careful about eating foods that contain high levels of these estrogen-like compounds. And as it turns out, because this estrogen shape is so basic, and because this estrogen shape is so fundamental and it's found throughout nature, there's many artificial chemicals that can elicit this estrogenic response as well. I'll tell you what I mean when I come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Our number today is 866-582-9933. We're coming back at you with more good health information right after this message. Don't go away. All right, continuing on with estrogen, the stress hormone estrogen. Despite what you heard from your doctor, from anybody else, estrogen is a stress hormone more than it is a female hormone. It's a basic chemical shape found throughout nature. Legumes, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, many plants and herbs contain these estrogen-like compounds that can elicit this estrogen stress response in the body. And as it turns out, this estrogen shape, this estrogen key, is also found in many artificial chemicals. There's lots of plastics, for example, plastic-like chemicals that can elicit this estrogen stress response in animals and in humans who are exposed to them. We've talked many times on this program about something called bisphenol A and other plastic-type chemicals that are found in plastic wrap and plastic bottles. These are sources of what is called xenoestrogens. Xeno is the prefix for the word foreign estrogens. Xenoestrogens are estrogen-like compounds that are found in artificial chemicals. There's estrogen-like compounds, there's xenoestrogens found in skincare products. Many preservatives. Perhaps you guys have heard of the problems associated with parabins. Parabins are problematic because they're xenoestrogenic. Other preservatives are xenoestrogenic. Fragrances are xenoestrogenic, and probably the most egregious example of xenoestrogens that are found in skincare products are chemical sunscreens, which is why I always say you don't want to use a chemical sunscreen. Now, I'm making a distinction here between sunblocks, like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. These are sunblocks. They block the effects of the sun, as opposed to sunscreens like octyl methoxycinnamate or octyl salicylate, or the new one that came out, Mexeril. It's actually just came out a couple of years ago. These sunscreen-like chemicals act like xenoestrogens, which is why you don't want to be using sunscreens. Use sunblocks. Use zinc oxide or titanium dioxide if you're stuck. You don't want to burn, and if you're stuck in a situation where you have to use a sunscreen, get it off your skin as soon as you can, as soon as you don't need it anymore, and then make sure you use as low an SPF as possible. How is that for flying in the face of medical dogma? Get the sunscreen off your face, use as low an SPF as you have to, and you'll have your skin contact with as little of that xenoestrogenic toxicity as you have to. Perhaps most egregious of all is the intentional exposure to estrogen that we get voluntarily. We volunteer to be exposed to estrogen through prescription drugs, birth control pills, hormone replacement therapy. These are voluntary ways that we voluntarily expose ourselves to estrogen. And then xenoestrogenic exposure comes through water as well. When you take your birth control pill, you take your hormone replacement therapy pill, and you excrete it, it goes right in the water supply, and we're all drinking xenoestrogens. And indeed, it turns out that water in rivers, water in streams, and even water in tap water can contain these xenoestrogenic compounds. Initially, estrogens, whether they're xenoestrogens or phytoestrogens or they're normal biologic estrogens produced by our bodies, initially they will upregulate our cell's functions. If you allow estrogen to contact the cell, that cell is going to start doing more of what it ordinarily does. This is why some people will use estrogen for wrinkles, for example, because estrogen initially will stimulate the production of collagen. It'll cause collagen to be produced by collagen-making cells. Estrogen, like all stress hormones, initially in the short term will upregulate, will increase the production of whatever that cell is producing. However, over time, this excess artificial stimulation will result in oxygen deprivation, i.e. suffocation by the cells. The cells will suffocate, and this, as we've said many times on this program, is not a good thing. Remember, all disease is cell disease, and one of the major causes of cell disease, along with starvation and toxification, is suffocation. This lack of oxygen is caused by revving up of the cell machinery by estrogen and other stress hormones. This suffocation, lack of oxygen, ultimately will result in one of two things. Either the cell will begin to break down, it will become leaky, it will take in more water, it will cause cell swelling, disrupting its activities and ultimately killing the cell, or the cell will divide. When cells are stressed out from being revved up too much, they can divide as a way of dispersing, spreading out the excess energy. Thus, the main effects of excess estrogen, in addition to cell breakdown, is cell division. That is, cells growing out of control. Crazy growing cells. We talked yesterday or a couple days ago about a gal who had endometriosis. Endometriosis is a classic case of cells going nuts, endometrial cells going nuts, and this can come from excess estrogen. Anytime you have cells going crazy, you want to think about excess estrogen. To put it bluntly, estrogen's net effect on cells is to either make them go crazy or to kill them. Not good. And if you voluntarily choose to go on hormone replacement therapy, people, you are playing with fire. And as it turns out, many of the signs of aging, including excess pigmentation, hyperpigmentation, darkening of the skin, formation of blood clots, formation of fibroids, inflammation, immune system imbalances, all of these, while they're also associated with aging, they are exactly the same signs as excess estrogen. In fact, it would not be a stretch to say that estrogen, in addition to being a stress hormone, may also be an aging hormone. And this is something that women will voluntarily subject themselves to for no other reason than their doctor told them to. By the way, this whole estrogen craze began in the 1960s with a publication of a book called Feminine Forever, and I'll talk about that on our next program tomorrow. But I want to talk about real quickly about, I want to at least start the top 15 or so substances that you can use for protection from estrogen. These are in no particular order. We're just going to go over these top 15, and we'll talk a little bit about each one. The first one I want to talk about, we mentioned yesterday, first of all the fat-soluble vitamins, D, E, A, and K, will provide you with protection from estrogen, and we'll talk about these in the next couple of Brightside episodes. But I do want to tell you that vitamin E, also known as tocopherol, is highly protective against excess estrogen. We'll talk about that a bit when we come back from our break and take your phone calls as well. 866-582-9933 is our number. We do have a couple lines open for you. If you've been trying to get on board and haven't been able to, now's your opportunity. 866-582-9933 is the number. We're coming back at you right after this. Don't go away. Let's see. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about this book that was written back in the 1960s that really started this whole estrogen craze. And I'll tell you about the scandal behind the author, Dr. Robert Wilson, who wrote this book back in, I think it was 1964, or actually 1964 or so. It started the whole estrogen craze. We'll do that tomorrow. We'll also continue with some nutritional supplements that you can use to protect yourself from estrogen if you are concerned about xenoestrogens, foreign estrogens. If you're on hormone replacement therapy, or if you're on the birth control pill, you're going to want to tune into the bright side tomorrow. One of the most important nutritional supplements that you can use to protect yourself from estrogen is vitamin E. Vitamin E is called is known by its Latin name tocopherol, which means to bear children. It is a pro-conception vitamin that contradicts, that opposes the contraceptive properties, the birth control properties of estrogen. Estrogen is a birth control substance. Vitamin E is a birth substance. It's a pro-conception substance, as you can tell by the name tocopherol, which is Greek for to bear children. Women who are on the birth control pill know good and well that estrogen has anti-contraception properties, but what many women who are trying to get pregnant don't realize, many women who want to get pregnant don't realize, is the fact that infertility can be connected to accidental or unintentional or exposure to estrogen through foods: dairy, fish, soy, peanuts, lentils, chickpeas, oat, other cereal grains. These are all some of the zillions of ways, including cosmetics and sunscreens and tap water. These are all some of the ways we expose ourselves to estrogen. Remember, one of the main roles of estrogen in nature is to be birth control. If you're trying to get pregnant but you're having difficulties, in addition to reducing your exposure to estrogen and estrogenic substances, estrogenic foods, you want to start taking 400 international units a day of vitamin E. Use mixed vitamin E. Take vitamin E in its mixed form. There's two main categories of vitamin E. You've got tocopherols and tocotrienols, and each one of these comes in 4 varieties, so you have in total eight different forms of vitamin E. Look for the word mixed on the label, and if you want to go all out, get mixed tocopherols and mixed tocotrienols. Vitamin E's cancer protection properties are well documented, and even though there's many mechanisms that vitamin E has for protecting us from cancer, one of the most important is via its ability to protect us from excess estrogen. If you have any concerns about breast cancer, if you're at risk for breast cancer genetically, if you're a smoker, if you're overweight, run, don't walk to your local health food store and get yourself some vitamin E, 400 international units a day. There's actually quite a few different ways that you can use nutritional supplementation to protect yourself from estrogen, and we will continue this discussion tomorrow. I'll tell you a couple more of these top 15 nutrients that you can use to protect yourself from estrogen, and we'll also talk about how this whole estrogen craze really began back in the early 1960s. We'll do all that tomorrow on the bright side. So if you're on HRT, you're on the birth control pill, you're concerned about xenoestrogens, you're going to want to tune in to the bright side tomorrow as we continue this discussion. All right, 866-582-9933 is our number. Let's take our first phone call of the day. Let's see, go off to Kansas. Welcome to the bright side, Bruce. What's going on?
Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, sir.
Ben?
Yes, sir. How can we help you? How you doing, buddy?
Hello?
Hello, hello.
Hello?
Hi, Bruce. Bruce? For some reason, Bruce can't hear us. Are you there, Bruce? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Ben?
Yes, sir. How can we help you, my friend? You're on the air.
Excellent. Good morning. Yes, I'm scheduled for the 5th nasal polyp removal surgery in 15 years.
Wow.
And I'm just wondering if you could recommend anything to keep these polyps from coming back after the surgery. And I also wanted to ask about this flonase potion that they want me to use the rest of my life. It's a nasal spray.
Are you on Flonase now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, here's the deal, all right? First of all, a polyp, for the listeners, a polyp is just a growth. That's all it is. Fancy way of saying a growth. It's a growth that comes out of a mucous membrane, but it's just a growth. Like a skin tag is a growth. It's a skin tag on the mucous membrane in your nose. That's basically it. Or you can call it a cyst if you want. You can call it anything. It's just a growth. And whenever anything's growing, the two things you want to look at are insulin and estrogen. As we've been talking about today, or in the last couple of days, estrogen is a substance that makes cells divide, makes cells grow. So insulin and estrogen are going to be your two most likely suspects. But before we even get into that, Bruce, the most important thing you can do, and I want everybody listening to understand this, if you have one particular symptom that is bugging you or that you have to go to the doctor for repeatedly, or in Bruce's case, that you have to have surgical procedures done repeatedly, if you have one symptom, rest assured you have other symptoms, and you're just not catching them, or they're just not severe enough for you to notice them. But it's important that you put all the pieces together so that we can form a picture of what's happening in your body. So Bruce, my friend, What else do you have going on in your system? And if you don't know that you have anything going on, that's not unusual. You got to go back. You're going to have to spend a couple of days and do some homework and pay attention to what's going on in your body. But real quick, do you know anything else that's going on in your system? Do you have high blood pressure, for example? Do you have diabetes? Are you overweight? Do you have a history of heart issues? Do you have any kind of digestive problem? Anything that you can think of?
Well,
eczema.
I started getting high cholesterol a couple of years ago, and
okay.
I was eating.
No. Don't. I don't want it, Bruce. I want to work with me here, okay? I don't want any explanations. I just want to put some pieces together, okay? So we got high cholesterol, okay? We got elevated cholesterol, and we got nasal polyps. What else can you think of? Rack your brain.
Well, high blood pressure.
Okay. All right. We're on the right track here.
Under control.
Don't worry about it. I'm not attacking you here, my friend. I just want to know exactly what's going on because we're trying to paint a picture here. All right. It's like I don't know. There was a game show. I forgot what it is. I think it was Wheel of Fortune where you get letters and you put a letter here and a letter there and eventually the whole word starts to form. Right. You know what I'm talking about? Does that make sense?
I'm tracking.
Okay, good. So we got high blood pressure, we got high cholesterol, we got nasal polyps. Any other things you could think of? Because we got a nice picture going, but maybe a couple other things.
My weight is good.
Yeah.
It was up around 200. I'm 5'10", so I brought it back down to 180, 85. Okay. That's where I'm comfortable.
Okay, good.
So my weight is pretty good.
How tall are you?
I don't have stomach issues. I don't have headaches. I don't have...
No, I don't want to know what you do. Bruce, I don't want to know what you don't have. That's not interesting to me. I want to know what you do have. So all right. So we got the high blood pressure. We got the cholesterol. Tendency for weight gain. How tall are you, by the way?
5'10".
And you weigh 180, you said?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. But when you were 230, you had some weight gain. How old are you, my friend?
56.
Okay, good. So here's what you're dealing with. High blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, and issues with weight. Even though you got the weight down, tendency is for the weight to go up. All of those are indicative of blood sugar problems. Nasal polyps are a growth issue, and as I said, the first thing I said to you was you're probably looking at an issue with insulin and or estrogen. So what we're looking at is an entire pre-diabetic or diabetic picture here, my friend. Hang tight, Bruce, because I'm going to tell you how you deal with this so you don't have to go to any more surgeries and you probably won't have to deal with any more doctors either. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. 866-582-9933 is our number. We're coming back at you right after. All right, we're back on The Bright Side. Pharmacist Ben here. Thank you for joining us. We're talking to Bruce in Kansas about nasal polyps. Are you there, my friend, Bruce?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're putting together a picture here. We got pre-diabetes. Sounds like you have pre-diabetes anyway. Everything you're talking about, weight issues, hypertension, elevated cholesterol, those are all indicative of blood sugar problems. It's not unusual. In fact, it's more usual than it is unusual for us to have blood sugar problems as we get older. Nasal polyps are growths coming out of the mucous membrane inside the nose. Anytime tissue cells are growing inappropriately, the two most likely suspects, and this is true about anything, people, if you have skin tags, if you have cysts, if you have fibroids, any kind of inappropriate growth, inappropriate cell division, look to insulin and look to estrogen. We're going to treat you as a pre-diabetic, Bruce, and this is what you need to do, okay? Number one, first and foremost, you've got to restrict your intake of any kind of foods that mess up your blood sugar. If you've listened to the program, you know what I'm talking about. Fast-burning carbohydrates, refined flours, cereals, breads, fruits, fruit juices, potatoes and corn, and processed flours of all kinds. Certainly dessert kind of foods. Anything that messes up your blood sugar needs to be avoided as best as you can. If you eat more protein and you get more essential fatty acids, that's going to make it easier to wean yourself off of these kinds of foods. Get yourself on whey protein. If you can't do whey, do hemp seed protein. Eat eggs, unless you have food allergies. Any food allergies or anything like that? Food intolerances?
No, sir.
Are you on any medication? I forgot to ask you.
The flonase is
aside from the flonase. Okay. All right. The flonase is just a way of suppressing growth. It's a steroid, and it just shuts down growth. It's one of the stupidest medical strategies in a whole zillions of stupid medical strategies. One of the dumbest is to use steroids to suppress growth. Instead of figuring out why our cells going crazy, doctors just suppress the growth. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to figure out why those cells are going crazy. Look to insulin. Try to keep your blood sugar stable by using more protein and more essential fatty acids, staying away from foods that spike your blood sugar. Then you want to use nutritional supplements, I should say, that help protect blood sugar, help stabilize blood sugar. The B vitamins are very, very important. All the B vitamins, but especially thiamine and niacin. You'll find all of them in the Beyond Tangy Tangerine. You'll also find vitamin C. I'd get on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine as soon as possible if I were you. Also, the Sweeties, which is chromium and vanadium, also very protective for your blood sugar. Magnesium, very protective for blood sugar. Alpha lipoic acid, same. 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate is a must-have nutritional supplement. Get on 50 milligrams of zinc picolinate. You may want to also consider using nutritional supplements that help stabilize estrogen. Vitamin E, we talked about. Vitamin E will also help you a little bit with your blood sugar. Vitamin A, we're going to talk about that, if not tomorrow, in the next couple of days. Vitamin A is also important for helping protect yourself against estrogen, and also may have some stabilizing effects on your blood sugar. Now, you said you didn't have any digestive problems. I'm going to take your word for it, Bruce, but I got to tell you, it's very rare that somebody will have blood sugar issues and not also have some kind of digestive issues as well. So keep your eyes open for anything that's going on in your digestive system and see if you notice that there's any relationship to specific foods that you're eating. And last but not least, no matter what your health condition is, everybody benefits from a good probiotic supplement. I'm very happy to say that the Nightly Essence is back on the market. It's my favorite probiotic supplement. For a long time, I had to send people somewhere else to get their probiotics, but Longevity came back out with the Nightly Essence, and that's an awesome probiotic. It also has digestive enzymes in there as well. So you see how we're working here, Bruce? Focus on insulin, focus on blood sugar, perhaps focus a little bit on the whole estrogenic component as well. Treat yourself as if you were a pre-diabetic. And you know what, my friend? If you don't notice results in 2 or 3 weeks, I don't know about the nasal polyps specifically, but if you don't notice that you're feeling better, your blood pressure is dropping, your cholesterol is dropping as well, and probably that you're noticing some results with your nasal polyps, I'll be absolutely floored and shocked. And if I were you, I would wait to have that surgery until some of these nutritional strategies kicked in. It usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks for nutritional strategies to kick in, okay?
Yes, okay.
Anything else you want to ask me, Bruce?
I forgot to mention I do have sleep apnea, and I use it.
Oh, Bruce! You know what? I'm gonna bust on you a little bit. I'm not being mean. I hope you don't think I'm picking on you, but this is how it is. We don't realize our health problems because we've had them all our lives. Sleep apnea is a classic sign of blood sugar issues. Diabetes and sleep apnea go together. It's also a sign of excess estrogen and excess cortisol. A stress hormone could be involved. There's inflammation going on. There's a bunch of stuff happening on there. Bruce, do you see how the nasal polyps are just the tip of the iceberg? It's just kind of what you're seeing, but it's not really the main problem, that there's an underlying biochemical issue underneath?
I do.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. So before you go and have that nasal polyp surgery, I would really recommend that you worked on the whole blood sugar issue and perhaps even the estrogen issue and see what happens. Because you know what? Do you really want to be on flonase the rest of your life? And do you really want to be going in for nasal polyp surgery every couple of years? Does that sound like something that's good, especially now with Obamacare?
No, not at all.
All right. So deal with the stuff underneath. Understand that diabetes and sleep apnea go together. Everything that you're talking about sounds like blood sugar issues to me, and that's what you want to be dealing with. And you know what else, my friend? When you do this stuff, you're going to add years to your life. Not only will you improve your blood sugar and improve your cholesterol and improve your weight and hypertension and reduce your incidences of nasal polyps, you're going to add years to your life, and that's the good news. And that's why I call this program The Bright Side. That's the good news. Thanks so much for your call, Bruce. Appreciate it. Moving on. Let's see. Let's go to Donna in Texas. What's up, Donna?
I've got 8-year-old twin boys, and one is pretty much nonverbal. And we have done in the past extensive allergy testing, and we've done supplements in the past, but his situation seems to have switched around again from the first time we had him allergy tested. His most severe allergies were to dairy and proteins like chicken, as well as a bunch of fruits and vegetables. The next time we had it done, which was just 3 years ago, his allergies had switched around to soy, whey, blueberries, pineapple, still chicken.
Okay.
He's smaller than his twin is. It seems to me that he's having absorption issues again, because his stools are not always looking normal.
Okay.
And his food preferences have recently changed, and because of the nonverbal, I can't figure out what in the world I can get him to eat.
Okay.
And he does also have some sleep issues.
Well, yeah, sleep issues, as we were talking about with the last caller. Whenever you have sleep issues, you want to look at stress hormones, keeping the body awake. To the body, stress, a saber-toothed tiger coming to eat you, or having a bacterial problem are both the same kind of stress, and both will keep you awake. So we got to work on the digestive issues first, and then the sleep problems should take care of themselves. You do have it's going to be a little trickier if he's nonverbal, so you're going to have to be a little bit more vigilant. First of all, was he born cesarean?
He was a C-section. His brother was born naturally, but he had to be a C.
Okay, no worries. But the C-section babies are compromised right when they're born, before they even start life. Right when they come out of the womb, they're compromised, because as the baby comes through the birth canal, the way nature has set it up is bacteria from the birth canal, from the vagina and the birth canal, are supposed to coat the baby, and then the bacteria get in the baby's respiratory tract and his mouth, and they go down to the digestive tract, and that sets up the digestive system. C-section babies don't get that. So here's what you're going to need to do. First of all, is he on a probiotic supplement? And he should be on a great one if he's not. Today, don't even hang up the phone. Hang up the phone, go get him the best probiotic you could find. I like the Nightly Essence from Longevity. Call him up, calling you today. Don't waste one day. Get him on a probiotic supplement, and have him eating fermented foods if he can do that. Keep him away from anything that messes up the bacteria in the gut, and sugar is an absolute disaster for gut bacteria. And if he doesn't have probiotics and he's eating a lot of sugar, that's going to cause a huge digestive disaster.
He's not a sugar fan, and I'm real big on keeping him on whole foods. And
good. Well, whole foods are sugar. Whole foods are sugar, Donna. Oatmeal's a whole food, and it's sugar. Bread is a whole food. Whole grain bread is a whole food. Rice is a whole food. These are all sugary ways that the body gets sugar. Potatoes, corn, they sound like they're good, but they can mess up bacteria in the gut. So steer him towards protein. Does he eat eggs, or can he eat eggs?
He can eat eggs. That's one of the things he's been pushing away lately.
Okay, if he can't eat eggs, or if he won't eat eggs, try to blend them up. Put them in a smoothie if you can, or put them in some kind of blended form where he can't taste the eggs. Donna, this is very important, and we're out of time. Can you send me an email, put your phone number on there, and let me, I'll get a hold of you, and you and I will work through this together, okay? Focus on that. Do you still have Donna? Donna?
Yes.
Okay, so can you do that for me? Send me an email, put Donna in the subject. Make sure you put your phone number. Get him a probiotic today, the best one you could find, the Nightly Essence from Longevity. That's all the time we have for today, folks. If you were on hold, I apologize. Call us back tomorrow. Tell the call screener that you were on hold, and we'll get you up first thing. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Stay tuned for Alex Jones next. On most of these stations, we'll be finishing up, or at least continuing, talking about supplements for estrogen, protection from estrogen tomorrow. That's all we got time for today. Let's see what else. That's it. We'll talk to y'all later, folks. Bye for now.